A married couple struggling from their daughter's disappearance finds a strange creature that might give them what they need. A young girl recalls the day when fallen angels descended on Earth in the winter of February. They rained from the sky like comets scattered all around Newark, New Jersey. Nobody knew how or why this happened, but the event became known as the Fall. One day, Brian Cook stares at a doll in a grocery store. After observing it long enough, he ultimately decides to buy it along with a carton of beer. While collecting his change, the cashier drops a bunch of coins, and this triggers a memory in Brian. When the cashier has picked up his change, he's long gone. On his way home, Brian passes by a ballerina studio, but he does his best to look away from it. When he finally reaches his house, he looks for the bottle opener in a drawer filled with brown Sharpies. Seeing this makes Brian tear up, but he shifts his focus elsewhere. He wraps the doll with gift wrapping paper and adds it to the pile of gifts beneath their Christmas tree. After this, he sits by the TV and drowns his sorrows away with alcohol. That evening, his wife Amy arrives and apologizes for being late. She asks if he's eaten dinner, but he just lifts his beer as an answer, as if that's his dinner. She hurries him to get ready, but Brian hasn't moved from his seat by the time she gets dressed. He tries to lie out of their plans, but ultimately asks if he can just stay home. Amy tries to be understanding but insists that their doctor suggests that it'd help for them to meet other couples who experienced something similar. Brian, however, argues that those couples' children are dead. Theirs isn't. He asks his wife not to pressure him into this group therapy session. Finally, Amy drops it and decides to attend alone. The next day, Brian visits a hypnosis therapist to peer into his memories of the day that Tabitha went missing. Motivated to find a clue that will lead him to find her, Brian tries his best to remember the details. He remembers how 16 months ago, he picked up their 8-year-old daughter Tabitha from ballet class. He took her to get ice cream, and she begged to pet a dog she saw on the sidewalk while he was paying for their ice cream. However, when he looked back, she was gone. Tabitha's ice cream was on the ground, and near it was a van. With this, Brian desperately tries to remember more details and finally conjures the license plate that may help him find his daughter. Later, he delivers this to the police station, hoping it'll help Tabitha's case. A police officer assures Brian they'll look into it, but after discovering that it came from his hypnosis therapy, he doubts that it'll lead anywhere. Somewhere in the city, another angel falls from the sky. Many thought that they came to save humanity, but others wondered if they actually came to wreak havoc on Earth. Elsewhere, Amy attends a group session by herself. She shares how Tabitha wanted to be a ballerina, and she badly pleaded for a pair of brown ballet shoes. When the color wasn't available, Brian colored her pink shoes with a bunch of brown Sharpies. However, the color kept wearing out, so he repeatedly bought a bunch of Sharpies to maintain its color. In the middle of her story, Amy blurts out that Tabitha is only missing. Because of this, a member of the circle butts in and asks why she's there. She thinks that Amy must be hoping that her daughter's long dead. After this, Amy leaves the session feeling hurt. Just as she's about to get in the car, she receives a call from the police about the license plate. It didn't pan out, and they only called to inform her about it. After dropping the call, Amy stays in her car for a bit. Suddenly, she sees Tabitha through the car's rearview mirror, so she chases her down the street. She arrives in an abandoned building, but instead of finding her daughter, she discovers a decapitated head of an angel. When Brian gets home that night, he discovers that Amy threw away all the Sharpies. Amy explains that Tabitha is dead, but Brian refuses to believe it. He accuses her of giving up on their daughter. Then, he furiously walks away. The following morning, Brian tidies up Tabitha's room and he receives a lead regarding the license plate. When he learns about the address, he decides to check it out. However, Brian gets arrested for trespassing. Amy goes to the station to pick him up, and she's pissed at him for following a dead lead since the van's owner wasn't even in town the day Tabitha disappeared. Tommy from Amy's support group drives them home, and Brian can't help but sense that something's going on between them. When they get home, Amy immediately fumes at Brian for what he did. Brian retaliates, saying that she wants to bury their daughter quickly so she can resume her life. Hearing this, Amy reminds him of all the times that she kept their marriage together when he was out sulking. Just then, she admits to having an affair with Tommy. This upsets Brian, but Amy pleads with him to fight for her before she gives up on their marriage. However, Brian says he can't because this would mean giving up on Tabitha. With this, Amy goes to sleep while Brian is left downstairs crying. Later on, he heads to the local diner, where he asks the waitress, Tony, for any strong drinks. They end up doing shots, and Tony tells him to make love to her. However, Brian shows his ring and says he's a married man. After a few more drinks, Tony shares that she had an epiphany a few days ago. A baby was crying in the diner, so she decided to take a break outside. There, she saw a man who seemed to be selling some substances, so she approached him and asked what he's got. The man revealed some pills and said that it was an angel's blood. Tony wanted something to numb her down while she took her shift, so she bought them. As soon as she took the pills, her senses heightened, and she could feel everything that was happening around her. However, this became so powerful that she puked in the comfort room. After washing her face, she saw her horrific reflection in the mirror. She had no mouth, and her eyes were hollow with black substance dripping from them. Tony tells Brian that this opened her eyes to the truth. She's a monster. Brian replies that they both are. Just then, Tony suggests playing a game where they compare who's the worst. She goes first and tells the story of how she abandoned her daughter 10 years ago. She doesn't know where she is now, nor does she want to get her back. After this, Brian shares the story of his daughter's disappearance. He promised Tabitha that he would always look after her, but when he bent down to collect the coins that he dropped, she was nowhere to be seen. The guilt consumed Brian, and the sound of coins dropping haunted him since. After hearing his story, Tony raises a toast for the worst people in the world. Shortly after, she puts the jukebox on, and they dance to the music. As they're about to kiss, the song ends, so Tony rushes to the cash register to get more coins. However, she drops some of them, and the sound triggers Brian. When Tony returns, Brian has already left. As Brian walks on the streets, he suddenly sees Tabitha. He quickly chases her to an alley, where he finds the brown Sharpies scattered on the ground. He decides to follow them, and this leads him to the dumpsters. He hears some peculiar noises coming from it, so he opens it to check. To his surprise, he sees a pale creature with hollow eyes. It's an angel, and it's severely injured. The angel looks at Brian with fear, but he only stares at it in awe. After seeing its injury, he decides to rescue it and bring it to his house. When he arrives, Amy assists him in placing the angel on Tabitha's bed. Together, they tend to the creature's wound. Brian talks about how as soon as these creatures came to Earth, people immediately started hunting them and farming their body parts. This includes things like the drugs that Tony took. As the angel shakes from the pain of its injuries, Amy observes it, saying that it must have appeared for them. The couple watches over the angel overnight, and they sleep on the floor. The next morning, the angel shivers in pain. Brian and Amy are confused, and they reckon that it's hungry. Just then, the angel reaches into the wound on its abdomen, lathering blood on its bony finger. Then, it reaches out to Amy, so she leans closer as the angel places its bloody finger on her tongue. It does the same to Brian, and although he hesitates, he trusts the creature. The two suddenly begin to hallucinate. Brian starts to panic, saying that if Tabitha is dead, he can't possibly reach 50 years old without her. Hearing this, Amy reminds him that they can still be a family. However, Brian argues that he'll lose his purpose if Tabitha's gone. In a split second, they suddenly find themselves in the living room. Amy is hyperventilating, and she is commanding Brian to take down the Christmas tree. When he refuses, Amy explains that it smells like death, so he must get rid of it. Amy loses her patience, so she barges toward the tree and destroys the gifts beneath it. After this, the couple wildly lets out all their emotions regarding Tabitha's disappearance. Brian rolls on the floor, beating his chest in frustration, and Amy continues destroying the tree. When they're finally relieved from all their pain, they calmly lie on the floor. Suddenly, they snap back into reality, and the two look at each other. Brian looks at Amy and asks if Tommy did her good, and she nods to confirm. Then, he asks where they did it, and she suggests that they did it in their house. Brian bangs the table in anger and leaves. However, Amy merely laughs, and this is out of pure joy because Brian is finally ready to fight for her. Meanwhile, the support group is having one of their sessions. Just then, Brian barges into the place and lands a strong blow on Tommy's face. He leaves right after, and he says sorry as he walks away. When he returns home, he tells Amy that he came from the support group. She sees him clench his swollen knuckles, so she tends to him. As she wraps a bandage around his hand, Amy reminisces about their past. Suddenly, Brian looks at her and says that he loved her from the very start. This paints a smile on Amy's face. Then, she softly kisses her husband. The kisses escalate into a passionate moment between the couple, and they start to make love right in their living room. As they're occupied, the angel rushes downstairs and watches them. Just then, it slits its own throat and drenches the couple with its blood, but they're unfazed and carry on with what they're doing. Soaked in blood, Brian and Amy find themselves in an empty theater. Suddenly, the curtains roll back, revealing Tabitha in her ballet costume and the brown shoes that she loved. The music plays, and she gracefully performs on stage while her parents watch her. Nobody still knows why the angels descended onto Earth, but Brian and Amy believe that their encounter with the angel healed their broken hearts. Although they knew that Tabitha was gone, the angel gave them a chance to say goodbye.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.